So I, 29 years old, have been best friends with, let's call her Linda, 28 years old, for 12 years now. We became very close as we met in church and were in the same group, and basically did everything together, even living in the same house but in different rooms. I got married in 2019, and Linda was my maid of honor, and she really came through for me. On her wedding to her longtime boyfriend, who I have also known for years, it was during the infection 19 season, and I had just had my first child, who was only 3 weeks old. I had a C-section and was still in pain, but I sucked it up and bundled my baby up, taking every precaution necessary to attend her wedding because I didn't want to miss out on it, just like she did for me. In our culture, at your engagement, you get to share items with the guests, while you also receive gifts, mostly money, from the guests. I had a lot of items left from my engagement, so I donated those to Linda for free for her engagement, and I was so happy that at least I did something for her. I paid half for her wedding cake and also bought her wedding shoes and the groom and best man's ties. This all happened in 2020. Now, this Christmas in 2023, I sent gifts to Linda and her family, as she now has 2 children with her husband. Let's call him Josh, 30 years old. Early this year, in 2024, after New Year's, I started hearing rumors from our shared friends, and it wasn't pleasant at all to hear. I didn't think much of it until Linda's mom called me and started ranting about me being a poisonous figure and a green snake under the green grass and trying to ruin my friend's marriage. Honestly, I don't even know what she was talking about at the moment, so I was shocked. My husband took the phone from me and spoke to her. My husband came back to me a good 20 minutes later and said he called some friends to investigate the matter. And it turned out that Josh was telling everyone that I had an issue with him marrying Linda. And at the time, I had tried to separate them. Then he said I even tried to ruin the wedding by sabotaging their wedding cake. Also, he said I apparently advised Linda to abort their first pregnancy and to leave him when they had some financial crisis. Heck, I was also in a financial crisis during that time, and I even encouraged my friend to not quit her boring job at the time because jobs were scarce. He told these people a whole lot more that I can't even wrap my head around to digest, and I was so shocked. I tried calling Linda to settle the issue with her, and she never picked up my call but sent me a message 3 days ago that she doesn't want to talk to me now and she needs time to process everything. Wow. Later that day, I called the caterer who made the cake and the driver I sent to take the items to Linda and spoke to them about the issue, and they decided to make a post in our friends group chat and relay everything on there. I also posted screenshots of all my chats with her and her husband prior to the issues, and also put in voice recordings and documented even the current gifts I sent over as Christmas gifts to them, and receipts for the ties and the shoes I bought my friend for her wedding. And then I left the group, followed by my husband, the caterer, and the driver. Since yesterday, our church pastor and a whole lot of people I don't even know have been blowing up my phone for throwing my friend and her husband under the bus, and they say I should have gone about it nicely. So am I the idiot? Edit. So I have had a lot of people saying Linda might be being abused, so I have spoken to my husband and shown him all the comments I have had, and he is also saying he's beginning to think so. So starting tomorrow, he and I will be going to investigate the matter and get the real reason and truth out. But hell, help Josh if truly he is harassing Linda, because I will deal him a disgusting blow he will never forget in his life. Edit 2. Thanks to everyone who commented and also shed light on a possible abuse on Josh's side. I really appreciate being heard and being consoled, and also being made aware of what might be going on behind the scenes. Thank you so much, everyone. Edit 3. I need to correct this as my cousin just brought it to my attention. I am using my cousin's Reddit since I don't have one, and I have permission from her to use and vent out here and get answers, as she feels it's great to have total strangers helping you through your issues. I failed to state that earlier in my post. I might want to get my own Reddit soon, but I will update everyone on what I find soon. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Throwing them under the bus? He was literally slandering and defaming you. I would tell him that if you hear another lie about you, you're suing him for slander and defamation of character. I'm a little confused. Just exactly what does your friend need to process? He told her that you told her to abort their first child? He told her that you told her to leave him? Does she not know these conversations never happened? How was the cake sabotaged? Did it not make it to the wedding? I'm just trying to figure out how this idiot doesn't know her husband is lying and costing him her best friend. Not the idiot. I would never speak to them again, and I would block everyone who had an opinion on it, pastor included. Comment 2. You're just bulldozing away the bus that Linda and Josh put on top of you. And how do you settle it nicely when Linda doesn't answer your calls and sends you a message that she doesn't want to talk to you? Might as well add that message from Linda and screenshots of the unanswered calls to the chats. Find a new church. That pastor doesn't sound good, related to Linda or Josh. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post and I'm here to spill the tea. Buckle up because this update is a wild ride. After my last post, my husband and I did some serious digging into the situation with Linda and Josh. Remember how I mentioned that Linda's mom called me a green snake? Well, turns out she was fed lies by Josh. He had been spinning stories not just about me, but about Linda too, making her out to be unstable and me as the villain trying to break them up. We found out that Josh had been controlling Linda's every move, isolating her from our friend group, and monitoring her calls and messages. It was worse than we thought. Linda had become a shadow of her vibrant self, and it broke my heart to see her like that. I had known her since our church group days, and she was always the life of the party, the one who would light up the room with her laughter. Now she was just silent. My husband and I decided to confront Josh. We invited him over under the guise of clearing the air. When he arrived, he was all smiles, thinking he had everyone fooled. But we had a surprise for him. We had gathered evidence of his lies and manipulation, including testimonies from people he had deceived. The confrontation was intense. Josh tried to deny everything, but the proof was undeniable. He was caught in his own web of lies. Linda, who had been silent up until then, finally found her voice. She told Josh she knew about his lies and that she couldn't believe she had let him control her life for so long. But here's the jaw-dropping moment. Linda had been secretly saving money. She revealed that she had enough to leave Josh and take care of herself and the kids. She had been planning her escape for months, ever since she started suspecting Josh's true nature. She had been the one to encourage me to keep all the receipts and records of the gifts I had given them, as a way to protect herself in case things went south. The look on Josh's face was priceless. He realized that not only had he lost control over Linda, but he was also about to lose everything he had taken for granted. Linda told him she was leaving him and taking the kids with her. She had already spoken to a lawyer and was ready to fight for full custody. Our friends, who had been so quick to believe Josh's lies, were now apologizing to me left and right. They couldn't believe they had been so easily deceived. The caterer and the driver, who had stood by me from the start, were there to witness Josh's downfall. They had been with me through thick and thin, and I couldn't have asked for better allies. As for the church pastor and those who had blown up my phone, they were now singing a different tune. They saw Josh for who he really was and were offering their support to Linda and me. It was a complete 180 from where we started. In the end, justice was served, but not in a loud or dramatic way. It was the quiet strength of a woman reclaiming her life, the support of true friends, and the unraveling of a man's deceit that brought everything full circle. Linda was free from Josh's grip, and I had my best friend back. The last 2 weeks have been a roller coaster, but I'm glad to say that things are looking up. Linda is staying with us for now, and her kids are happier than I've seen them in a long time. As for me, I've learned who my real friends are, and I'm grateful for each and every one of them. Brother steals from family, so I expose his toxic lies. He plays the victim until his ex's evidence surfaces and everything unravels. My parents haven't spoken to my brother in over a decade. This is their choice. They have essentially disowned him. There are multiple reasons that they did this and have refused to speak to him, but there is one massive incident they have not gotten over. My parents saved up a large amount of money that was to be split between my brother, my sister, and me for our college fund. At the time he was supposed to go to college 10 years ago, his share was a little over $60,000. My brother faked an acceptance letter and used that to access the money with full understanding that this was for his college education. He somehow convinced my parents to give him full access to the money as a lump sum. He then used it to invest in a friend's get-rich-quick pyramid scheme business that went under in less than a year. When my parents learned that he didn't even apply to any college and lied to get the money, they cut him off. Over the years, he's gotten involved in other schemes and still owes his ex-best friend $35,000 in debt from gambling on alt crypto coins. All these things have just convinced my parents he is a reckless manipulator, and they essentially pretend he just doesn't exist. My brother has been trying to put his life together over the past year or so. He met his now ex-fiancée sometime during the pandemic, and they got engaged 3 months ago after they found out she was pregnant. I've met her a few times, but don't know her very well. My sister and I still talk to our brother occasionally, but we're not close. A few weeks ago, my brother's ex-fiancée called and asked if I would clarify a few things about our parents. She said she wanted to test the waters, to see if she was going to reach out, to see if they wanted to have a relationship with their grandchild. I have a suspicion, though, that she wasn't buying the lie my brother was telling her about their relationship. My brother told his ex-fiancée that my parents had cut him off because he had dropped out of college. She didn't know he actually never went to college and about the money he stole. I corrected that and told her the truth. I knew I kicked the hornet's nest because she ended the conversation quickly after. I also made the mistake of telling my mom about this conversation because she found my brother's ex-fiancée on Instagram and started talking to her there after I told her. She pretty much gave her every reason to break up with him, and she took her advice and did. I was conflicted until last night when my brother called me up, furious and screaming. Ex-fiancée has been ghosting my brother since she broke up with him. And last night, she revealed she had a baby unaliving and told him never to talk to her again. He sounded like he was going off the rails again, and I had to hang up and block his number because of how mad he was. I talked to my sister, and despite not liking him that much, she told me that this was way beyond acceptable on my part. I feel responsible in a way now, and don't know what to think about my actions now. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Thank God you gave that ex-fiancée what she needed to make an informed choice about whether or not to have a child or build a life with someone. Your sister is welcome to check in with you later in life once she's experienced her life being shaped by a co-parent's fraudulent misrepresentation of who he is and what his life is. Not the jerk. Comment 2. Not the jerk. Does your sister truly think it was better for you to lie to this girl and basically baby trap her into a relationship with your brother for the next 18 plus years? Because that's essentially what you would have been doing if you lied to her and she found out later on that she missed her chance to make a clean break from him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a busy week, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty shocking. So, after my brother's ex-fiancée had the baby unaliving and cut him off, things went from bad to worse. My brother, who's always been a bit of a loose cannon, started spiraling out of control. He's been hitting the bars hard, and last I heard, he got into a fight with some guy over a spilled drink. Ended up with a black eye and a night in jail. Classic him, always finding trouble or trouble finding him. But here's where it gets really crazy. Remember how I mentioned my brother owed his ex-best friend $35,000 from that alt crypto coin gamble? Well, turns out that wasn't the whole story. My brother had actually convinced our sister to invest in that scheme too, swearing it was a sure thing. She's never been great with money, and she trusted him. She lost nearly $15,000, which she never told us about because she was too embarrassed. She only confessed to me after our last family blow-up. and it's been eating her up inside. Now my parents, they've been living in their own bubble, pretending my brother doesn't exist. But they've been harboring their own secrets. See the college fund they set up for us? It wasn't just their savings. They had taken out a second mortgage on the house, betting on our futures. When my brother took his share and blew it on that pyramid scheme, they were left with a mountain of debt they're still paying off. They never told us because they didn't want us to feel guilty about going to college. It's been a heavy weight on their shoulders, and it's probably why they've been so cold towards him. Back to my brother's ex-fiancée. After she reached out to my mom on Instagram, they actually started bonding. My mom, who's been starved for a grandchild, saw an opportunity to connect with the baby, even if it was through her. But after the baby unaliving, my mom felt betrayed and cut her off too. It's like a pattern with my family, cutting people off when things get tough. And here's the jaw dropper. My brother's ex-fiancée, before she ghosted him, had been secretly recording their conversations. She sent me one where my brother admitted he never planned to marry her. He was just with her because he thought having a baby might make my parents forgive him and take him back. When I heard that, I was floored. I couldn't believe he'd use his own child as a bargaining chip. My sister, who's always been the peacemaker, tried to reach out to my brother after he got out of jail. She wanted to help him get back on his feet. But when she confronted him about the money he lost her, he just laughed in her face, said it was her fault for being gullible. That's when she finally snapped. She told him she was done with him, that he was on his own. It was a side of her I'd never seen before, and it was both scary and sad. Now here's where karma comes into play, subtly righting the wrongs. My brother's ex-best friend, the one he owed money to, got wind of my brother's latest antics. He decided to take matters into his own hands and showed up at our house. He had a heart-to-heart with my parents, explaining how much my brother had screwed him over too. It was like a wake-up call for them. They realized that my brother wasn't just a problem for them, but for everyone around him. So, they did something unexpected. They reached out to my brother with an offer. They'd help him pay off his debt if he agreed to get professional help and work on turning his life around. It was a tough pill for my brother to swallow, his pride taking a hit, but he was out of options. He agreed. As for my sister, she started seeing a financial advisor to get her money matters in order. She's determined not to let anyone, not even family, take advantage of her again. My wife blew up when I eyed the retreat, a career maker. But as the twins teeter on the edge, I face the ugly truth that wins don't always look like wins. So first off, my wife and I are not in the best place right now. This is in part due to her decision to be a surrogate for her sister and brother-in-law. I did not agree with this. The current issue is not about that, though it is related. I was recently promoted, and with the promotion, my family and I are invited on a retreat. It is an all-expenses-paid trip. I told my wife about the trip, and she was really excited about it, and so are our kids. My wife brought up the trip with her doctor, though, and was told that since she is expecting twins, she should not fly after 20 weeks. She will be 24 weeks by the time of the trip, and there is no way for us to go besides flying. Her doctor said with how she is progressing, there is a chance she might have to be put on bed rest by then as well. Because of that, my wife doesn't want me to go either, since she says she'll need me here to take care of her. I would be able to, since I have the option to work from home. However, I still want to go on the trip, and so do our kids. So my thinking is that since the baby is theirs, my sister-in-law and her husband should have to be the ones to take care of my wife. I talked to them about this idea, and it was not well received because my sister-in-law and her husband do not live close by. So one of them would have to come and stay here to take care of her, which means one of them would have to take a week off from work. They apparently are scrambling to save every penny they can, since they spent all their savings getting my wife pregnant and were not expecting twins. My sister-in-law said if I was really going to abandon my pregnant wife, they would figure it out and take care of her. However, because of the money issue, it means her husband would be the one taking care of my wife, since my sister-in-law makes more money than him. It would be very detrimental to them if she took a week off, but they could make do without his paycheck if they had to. To me, it seems like a good enough solution. My wife is upset, though, because she says, I am putting her in the uncomfortable position of being taken care of by her brother-in-law when she is in a vulnerable state. Of course, nobody is thinking he's going to do anything to her. She's just uncomfortable because he's a man, and she would rather he not look after her. Update, I go offline for a bit to take care of some things, and I come back to all these comments. Thank you all for helping me not feel so crazy or, alone in this. I do realize now that this is the end of the road for us. I probably should have realized that sooner. So right now, I'm just going to start preparing for that and try to make this process as easy as possible for our kids. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You said in the comments that she not only didn't get your input on her surrogacy, she actually told you it was none of your business. Good God. If her pregnancy is none of your business, then you shouldn't have to sacrifice for it. Go on your trip, enjoy it. And when you get back, think hard on your marriage. I can't speak for you, but that would have been a deal breaker for me. And not just your garden variety deal breaker, but more of a oh hell no deal breaker. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Sorry, this whole situation is a mess, but the thing that is sticking out to me, they can't take a week off without it being detrimental to their budget. They're about to have 2 kids, if I read that right. They won't be able to afford them, let alone afford if the kids are sick or something. Take your kids on this trip and let your brother-in-law take care of her. That is his kid and her, not yours. And you and your kids shouldn't have to miss out because of this situation. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I've got to say, things have only gotten more intense. I wish I could say that my wife and I have resolved our issues, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Let's start with the retreat. Remember how excited I was about it? Well, it turns out that excitement was short-lived. After talking to my sister-in-law and her husband about them taking care of my wife while I was away, things got heated. My brother-in-law, who's always been a bit of a hothead, took offense to the idea that he should be the one to step in. He said something along the lines of, "So you get to swan off on some fancy trip while I pick up the pieces here?" That didn't go down well. Now my wife, she's been feeling more and more isolated because of her pregnancy. She's always been fiercely independent, and the thought of being on bed rest is driving her up the wall. So when she heard about the argument between me and her brother-in-law, she was furious. She accused me of causing unnecessary drama and said that I was being selfish for still wanting to go on the trip. But here's the kicker. My boss, who's known for being a bit of a stickler, caught wind of my personal situation. He pulled me aside and told me that he expects me to be at the retreat. No excuses. He said it was a critical networking opportunity and that my future at the company could depend on it. Talk about pressure, right? So now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. My wife needs me, my boss is demanding my presence, and my sister-in-law and her husband are barely speaking to me. I tried to talk to my wife about maybe hiring a nurse to help out, but she shot that down immediately. She said we couldn't afford it with all the medical bills piling up. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my wife's doctor called with some concerning news. The twins are at risk of being premature, and my wife needs to be monitored closely. This means that the idea of her being on bed rest is now a reality, not just a possibility. My kids are feeling the tension too. They've been asking questions, wondering why mommy and daddy are always arguing. It breaks my heart to see them like this. They were so excited about the trip, and now they're worried about their mom and the babies. The other day, my sister-in-law came over to try and smooth things over. She's always been the peacemaker in the family, but even she was struggling to find a solution that would work for everyone. She suggested a compromise where I go on the trip for a shorter period, but my wife wasn't having any of it. She said that if I went, it would show where my priorities lie. So here I am, trying to figure out what to do. I've been working from home as much as possible, trying to be there for my wife. But every time I get on a call or have to focus on work, I can feel the resentment from her. It's like she's holding it against me that life has to go on, even though I'm trying my best to support her. My brother-in-law has been coming around more, trying to make amends. He's been helping out with little things, but there's still this awkwardness between us. I can tell he's doing it more for his wife's sake than anything else. And just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, my boss sent me a message saying that he's expecting a full report on the retreat, whether I attend or not. It's like he's testing me, seeing if I'll put my career before my family. So that's where I'm at right now, stuck in a situation where no matter what I choose, someone's going to get hurt. My wife's health and the well-being of our unborn twins are my top priority, but the weight of my job and the expectations there are looming over me. I never imagined that being promoted would lead to such a mess. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.